Speak for yourself.
You've got long hair.
I don't have a beard. I'm different from the rest of you.
We really tried. We reached out to a lot of the women's groups. The
Women's
Want
groups.
to get more people involved. So I am sorry for the lack of diversity on this panel.
I don't have hair.
I hope I can make up for it in quality.
Yeah, I hope so.
But we'll find out. So yeah, I just wanted to hold my hands up and say, on behalf of BMEM, we are sorry. But sometimes it's just
BMEM, is that?
BMEM.
BMEM.
BMEM. I'm so glad G's not here. Anyway, right. Keeping with the theme, I'm not going to get you guys to introduce yourselves. I'm going to do it myself. So, again. Adam Nightingale.
Hello, Tommy.
Adam Nightingale, who has had more job titles than I've had pints, but is currently the Chief Operating Officer at 3SS.
I'm not.
Are you not?
No, that's a lady called Amelia.
Commercial?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, that's all right. I don't mind.
Commercial officer at 3SS.
Amelia would have been good.
Adam is known as one of the most charming gentlemen, executives in the industry, which is perhaps how 3SS made that lawsuit mysteriously disappear.
A sleight of hand.
And if you haven't seen Adam's uncanny impression of Andy Vortenspiel, then ask him in a few hours' time. You will thank me later.
It depends where we go after.
Is that enough info?
Because you've run out of beer.
Do you want to add anything?
No.
Was that okay?
Thank you. No, that was good.
Good. Perfect. All right.
Must
Milan.
I pay you?
It was the first time meeting you this evening, so I was quite nervous about doing this. Someone I've never met before. But Milan is CTO and co-owner of Shindiri Studio, a company that describes itself as technologically fearless.
We are.
Pulled from somewhere from your website, which sounds like an excellent excuse for when shit hits the fan. So, great job. Milan claims to have built some of the most customizable user interfaces in the world, and has travelled all the way from Serbia. So thank you for being here, Milan. Just make sure you don't speak to any journalists while you're here, and you'll be fine. Okay. Good stuff. And Stuart, Huke, head of product solutions at 24i, and professional ghoster.
Nice.
So Stu, why do you never reply to my emails?
Common sense.
Common sense.
Because you're smart.
Does anyone want to do Josh? Josh, you can do yourself, mate.
I'm a recruiter, so I'm sorry.
And I wore my brand new quarters especially.
Thank you, Tommy.
We don't know that you will. Right, let's jump in. Okay, so I know I do chat a little bit shit, as we've already established. So I thought I'd try and be a bit more professional at the start of this panel and start with some data and balance it out. So my colleagues at Rethink TV, who do the smart forecasting stuff, well, I just take all the glory, they have forecasted that there will be approximately 4.2 billion connected TV and smart TV devices in the field globally by 2030, growing from 2.6 billion units in 2025. So 1.6 billion more devices in the next 5 years. That means a shitload more fragmentation. So I just kind of wanted to ask each of you how you plan to cope with that in the next 5 years, assuming that connected TVs and smart TVs are still very central to your roadmap and your customers' roadmaps. In the next 5 years, that's going to explode. So how do we even begin to kind of understand that? Should we go from the end with Adam?
Yeah, I mean, within that big number, how many different, that's the number of devices in the home, right? But how many of them are different? Is there the same level of fragmentation as we're looking at now, or are they assuming that there will be another 5 different smart TV OSs that we have to cope with, and so on? Because frankly, if the level of fragmentation stays the same, it kind of doesn't make any difference. We're just serving on more unique versions of a Samsung platform, a Roku platform, or whatever else. But if what they're saying is that the number of different kinds of OS will multiply at the same extent as the number of devices themselves, then, well, we're immediately into that framework discussion that we talked about, at which point a framework is going to help solve that to an extent. But there's I think we come into a bit of a religious war with frameworks. Some people like them, some people don't. Some people want only native, others don't. Now, I think we need more data behind your rethink people's facts or opinions.
I didn't expect to do a plug.
Well, what I'm expecting is that although the extent of fragmentation is increasing, I can't believe it's going to multiply by the same number of devices that are
it's not going to get easier. It's not going to be 2 or 3 operating systems.
No, it's not going to get.
It's going to get harder. Your job is going to get.
Yeah, which is good, right? That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
But if you take,
which is good.
But if you take someone like Titan
Yeah.
OS, who are trying to make a big push for the market,
Yeah.
their framework is not that much different from LG or Samsung.
Yep.
So the lift and shift from one to the other isn't that bad. So from that perspective, it doesn't really, well, I'm not the one who has to do it, but it doesn't really cast a lot of fear from our perspective that they're making a push into the market. It just means one more slightly different operating system from that perspective. So I think
I don't think it makes a scrap of difference particularly.
I mean,
it might get a bit harder, but that's what we're here for.
And then we are.
Yeah.
True, yeah.
That's a different story.
I mean, from a perspective of a company that does, front-end development, we're very involved into, building cross-compatibility apps. And, you mentioned Titan OS. I mean, I have recently had a conversation with Rick Fence about it, because Titan, Vida, some people started in the same company like Leonard and all of these teams. And all of them started with Zessen and then moved towards building their own system. So we know Whale OS was behind it and all of this, systems that they've built initially. And when you take this into consideration in your statement that the applications will actually be easier to port than they are now and what they were 5 years ago, so we are seeing that technology is moving forward. The small gap of like fragmentation into one big code base that you can use or reuse furthermore. So I would say that we should be the ones, so tech companies that move forward to limit this gap in fragmentation on different, operating systems and smart TVs per se, connected TVs, STB boxes and things like that. So I would say the technology should be the one factor that's going to drive this fragmentation into a smaller gap. That's my opinion on it.
Well, these guys are technology based. I'm not right. When you said that number, I thought landfill. Where are they all there, right? Do we reuse them? Do we reboot them? Do we create a framework that can work on them from an older perspective, or do we just chuck them on a landfill and burn it and say that's that? I don't know, but that's the immediate, I guess, worry for me.
That's a great segue to the next
Which is
point.
just one more thing. More work for us.
That's true.
That's good.
It is.
And the next point was, is extending the life of legacy set-tops the smartest or the dumbest innovation in TV? There's the second question to that is what is the sustainability impact of that, keeping with the last session, of removing those devices from the market?
So I've got an opinion on this, is that there's a lot of people in the world that have these older legacy set-top boxes, and they're quite happy with them. And I think this comes back down to need. If those people are quite happy watching TV on their set-top boxes, then it's going to be quite hard to convince them to upgrade and pay, or get the company that's providing that set-top box to pay for the delivery of that new set-top box, pay for another set-top box to provide to that person. So unless there's a real need for that person to do that, I think it's, so for us, for example, we're trying to look at ways of changing our product to fit those legacy set-top boxes so that we can maintain our clients using them. Because I think that's a better strategy to help those companies, because the financial impact of switching out all of those legacy top boxes for, say, the newest Android set-top box is huge. It's absolutely huge. And I don't think these companies can necessarily make that investment to do that. It's a huge investment they will have to make. So I think it's up to the industry also to come up with ideas and ways to make those set-top boxes last longer, so that people, if they're quite happy with an older set-top box, can continue to watch TV.
So fully agree. What we see with our customers is that mostly they don't sit there in their living room and say, fucking, could really do with a new set-top box. What I need is to spend a bit of time behind the TV with the dust and the spiders and the filth and the mess, unplugging one, plugging and I'm going through the... I really want to spend my Saturday afternoon doing that. They don't. And if you can provide a better service without sending your customer round the back of the TV, then why wouldn't you? Not only that, there's a green element, as Stuart said, there's a cost element to it because boxes, even if they're not very expensive, by the time you multiply that, not very expensive by 200,000 or 500,000 or 1 million, it's a lot of money, and then you've got to ship them in big filthy boats from probably China to somewhere. Now it's overall bad. There's the flip side of that is that the reality is if you've got an older box, it's never going to be quite as slick and quick as something new. But for the most part, customers aren't sitting there saying, the zapping time could really do with being 50 milliseconds quicker. I'm a bit pissed off with this. With greatest regard to what Keith and Nokia are doing, the biggest customer complaint isn't, unless it's conspicuously bad, I suddenly want it to be quicker. If it's no slower than yesterday, it's probably fine. So, to answer your question, is it the smartest idea ever? I'm sure there are better ones, but it's not a stupid idea by any means.
One of your customer case studies at 4IG in Hungary, right, which is planning to, instead of rolling out new set-tops and hardware, it's going to deploy a USB dongle to its 10-year-old legacy set-tops to enable voice control, which for a decade-old device seems absolutely mental.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
And it's going to save it money.
Yeah.
So
It always depends on the customer at the end.
Absolutely.
They will learn that there is a lot of channels that they're using only HD. They don't have 4K. They don't have big resolution streaming features, whatever. Why would you then invest into new hardware which supports all of that if the infrastructure doesn't go along? So it depends in the end on the end customer. So if somebody is happy with the set-top box that was provided by him from a telco company that he signed an agreement with, who is he to okay, that's a free device that I got from XY telco company, that's it. And there is another type of users that are buying their own, like Sticks, Fire TV, Apple TV, whatever do you have, Roku's. And we heard about today that when Prime Day was happening, all of them bought HD devices, not 4Ks. Why? They're, I think, $3 expensive or $5.
$7, I think, but it was marginal.
So you need to take this into consideration that the pricing of a company investing into, for example, new lines of set-top boxes isn't driven only by an idea of being, the best one on the market or just being up to date. What customers are driving them to do. So basically, I would say that this is maybe how we should rephrase it and think about it. Well, smartest or dumbest, it depends on the situation.
But also, each client's going to be different, and each market's going to be different. If you go to some countries, the population is very old, and therefore doesn't necessarily want 4K streaming. They don't need it. They just want to watch their... Well, exactly. They can't see it because they've probably got bifocals.
Exactly, yeah.
But do you know what I mean? They just want to watch their weekly soap opera on TV. That's all they want to have. Therefore, why do they need all this new technology? And this is where I think it comes back down to the green argument is actually customers will drive the need for, I don't want all this new technology. I just want to be able to watch my favorite channel and it works. And that's sometimes I think you have to balance the need for innovation, but also balance it with what actually the users want on a global scale. We're not talking about the 2% households that want to watch sports in ultra clear details that you can see the spit that's coming out someone's mouth in a football match. Brilliant, fantastic, can't wait. But do you know what I mean? It's like, and that.
I'm so glad you're not in deaf.
That was your beer.
It was beer.
Stuart loves these panels.
Or the best product innovation that I've come up with
He says it's his best afternoon ever, isn't it?
Honestly, but we had a request from the Serbian Telecom actually to build a application for expats living in New Zealand, Australia, US and Canada. And most of those people are 60 plus, 65 plus actually. So we kind of, we're thinking what to propose because they give us you will propose what we will use, not we don't give you upfront ideas. we picked Roku actually because it's the easiest to use. The remote is small. It has only a few buttons.
Yeah.
And for those kind of people, when we talk about UX, and I know that we will later on, it also depends on what we will pick and what we will use as hardware for our tech. So basically, Roku happens to be one of the platforms that we use for elderly people that proven to be the best one from a perspective of usage or easiest to use.
I might have to replace my Roku box just to avoid dropping into that demographic. Damn.
Yeah.
Josh, you want to add anything?
I guess, what about when you guys give up on it though? So if the older set-top box takes double the manpower, triple the time in order to release the performance on it that you guys want, I guess then what happens?
Yeah, but I guess that's why, from our perspective, we were looking at trying to not dumb down our product, but it's almost like how do you make our product work on a legacy set-top box? Of course, it's not going to have the same technological capabilities. It can still do some minimal things. So, what's the best it can do based on what's available on that system? It can still do some stuff. It can, but you just need to change how your product works on those particular sets of boxes. Yeah. But I think that's the right way to go, rather than necessarily saying you've got to pay for this extra box, or the company has to absorb that fee to give out another set-top box to someone. If it's not needed, what's the point? I think this comes back down to listing actually what consumers want, rather than just shoving another thing.
I think we do get dragged a bit into the let's say our customers' view of the world, which is zapping times have to be like that. And again, Keith, sorry, but sometimes our customers don't care or they do, but their customers don't care particularly, and it's got to be super quick, and these KPIs all have to be met, because in the real world, unless they're bad, you don't notice. So for quite a big chunk of the market, good enough is plenty good enough. There'll be some where it's got to be better, and I think you can cater to that demand. But if you could save, let's say 70% or 80% of in-market set-top boxes and reuse them and keep on using them for another 3-4 years, it's never going to be a bad thing.
Yeah. All right, take a quick pause for any audience questions, just in case.
There's just a comment on set-top box life cycles and so on. So I think it's between 40 and 60% of the carbon life cycle, and these are using stats which I typically hate, so take it with a pinch of salt, but 40 to 60% is in the embedded emissions of making and delivering the set-top box, and so the other 60 to 40% is in their life cycle of energy use and so on. And I think there isn't enough maths going on working out what point you make the transitions and go, actually, technology gets more energy efficient over time, especially when it's gone through its innovation cycle into mass adoption. It gets vastly more efficient because people there's consumer electronics, people want to use the electricity for other things on the box or whatever it is. There's all sorts of drivers to actually drive technology to become more energy efficient, strangely, even though we don't typically adopt them for that reason. But at a certain point you can do the calculation and go, actually, it's time to deprecate that box and it's time to introduce a new technology. If you could, as an imaginary sweeping thing, regulate 5-year cycles or 7-year cycles, and everyone will work towards those cycles, synchronise those changes, you could probably upgrade to more energy efficient systems and do more and deliver the UHD and all these things with less energy than we were 5 years ago. Just last quick examples, talking someone a minute ago, in 2010, an optic router in a fibre network would give you a terabit of throughput for about 800 watts. 2020, an optic router would give you 10 terabits for 400 watts. And that's very typical of sort of how technology innovation cycles go. So at some point, it becomes more efficient to, green-wise, it becomes more efficient to do a switchover. But if you do it too soon, you're sort of wasting your embedded emissions. If you do it too late, you're running out too long on the operational energy, and there's no maths about that, there's no data about that.
I guess that's what you're saying about education, because I can guarantee you the companies that are making that decision about whether to upgrade someone to a new box isn't taking the green element into account and then using that as a reason for the user to make that switch, which is crazy.
No, they're looking at
if you said to them, actually, we give this new box and it's going to save you energy, that will be another reason why someone will say, oh great, I'll update to this box.
I think the little Roku sticks and those ideas are actually a really good idea because they prolong the life of the screen and the interchangeability of the middleware. And I think that's,
absolutely right.
I think that's the right thing to do.
I got another 5 years out. A personal example, I had a 2014 TV. I got another 5 years out of it easily by having a Roku sound box, which was brilliant, and it was great. I'd highly recommend it. It's very hard. Yeah.
Let's stop her.
All right, Scott.
I don't think there's any other hardware people in the room.
Do you think we're actually over a bit of a hump when it comes to connected TV capability? Because I remember in those early days, sort of 2011, 12 to 15, there was an awful, they were sort of obsolete in 2 years. All headlines come from anecdotal point of view. And then sort of like the late teens, 2017, 18, things seem to, the capabilities just sort of got enough and it's feeling like you can have a bit of a breather. Is that the case, do you think?
We're not using media center anymore.
I would say maybe just from a perspective that people that when they came out 2010, 11 for smart TVs.
I mean, it was like the G1 of smart TV.
So they were like totally, it was a disruption, I would say, to the market because essentially TVs were something that gathered the family around the place, but now that it's more entertainment, everything is more available. And everybody was trying to compete, Samsung, LG, and nothing was standardized. I mean, still isn't, but still you have now some kind of standardization. Samsung has Tizen, LG has WebOS. So basically after introducing those operating systems on the market, they kind of started doing some backwards compatibility, a little bit of standardization per platform, differentiated different kinds of TVs from consumer-based to professional to having signage TVs and stuff like that. So they kind of, move into a direction of standardization. So you didn't get a feeling that every time you're buying a new TV, you buy a completely new experience. But you buy something which is familiar to you. When you bought a TV 2011 and 2013, it was totally different. You didn't have this kind of feeling that you're buying something similar, but you're buying something totally new. So that's maybe the feeling that you had as a consumer, or maybe a lot of people around. I had the opportunity to really be at the forefront when the smart TVs came out on the market. So I was actually following this how it evolved during time. So I would say that at the moment now there is some kind of standardization that keeps you feeling engaged. Like, okay, the new TV is coming out, Tizen 9.0 from Samsung. It is, similar UI, some new features. You have AI, voice search, you have, connections with home appliances, things like that. But essentially, those kind of changes, I would say, are introduced, from year to year.
Thank you, Jacob.
Everyone's time. So I really like the what you're saying about, finding with each customer that point where you kind of say, okay, now it's time to get this. But also the example you gave of like voice activation, so they send over that additional thing. What would be other examples of that kind of cross point or those kind of features that is like, okay, actually we need to either it's update or we do something?
I'll give you a good example that a few customers are working on, and one is Soundbox. Personally, I mentioned the Roku thing, but that other OEMs have a Soundbox which, according to, and Frank Ripple from Vodafone said this at the Connected TV Summit in London, so it's no big secret. He said that having a Soundbox as part of the subscription will add €5 a month to the price a consumer's willing to pay for a subscription. And again, smart TV audio is pretty crappy. So if you can provide something that sounds good as part of a subscription, then you've got, now forgetting the whole green thing for one moment, you've got something which is far more compelling for customers and far more persuasive for operators to invest in that and then lock consumers in for a longer period of time to a device that is useful to them. So that is one example where personally I see quite a few of our customers getting onto the bandwagon of finding a thing that will tip them into making a new OEM decision.
I don't know what I could add to that. I mean, we can move forward. Well,
not really, I mean, I think the only thing is the graphical cards, and that it means that you can't do certain elements in that. So if you're wanting to do something quite bespoke in terms of advertising, for example, that might be the tipping point where you think, actually, if I can generate enough revenue from advertising, but I can't do what I want to do on that box, that might be then the tipping point as well. So I think
also one thing it just popped to my mind, UX. So, you know, different kinds of navigation, different kinds of features that are also driven by technology. So if you have an old set-top box that has an older Chromium or older browser inside the actual environment, from a front-end perspective, it can. I know that you shake your head, but it is you're countered actually.
No more slides.
I have set-top box 15 years old.
Okay.
It's brilliant.
I know, I understand. But
case study number 25.
But honestly, we got this case study, let's call it like that was driven the client into the other direction.
Awesome. I don't want to dwell too much on like the frameworks, but we need to touch on the frameworks.
Yeah.
When we talk about like codecs and protocols, and even getting down to that kind of level, there's always someone who's saying they've got the most efficient, the greenest. But I haven't heard that argument in kind of a React Native versus Lightning versus Flutter kind of debate. Is there anyone?
I think it's bollocks if anyone did say that. You know, our React Native developers are so much more environmentally friendly than the Flutter developers. Are they eat different food? I don't know. But these guys don't eat lentils, therefore it's a lot better. I don't see it.
Okay,
They
so
count their code of stone.
there's flat, there's no like from an engineering like purely coding level.
Actually,
literally no.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Whatsoever. There's no one claiming that they've got the greenest connected TV development framework.
No. I think you'll get claims around speed and efficiency and performance and cost and but it does. But I mean, put some context behind that. When we speak to prospective customers, sometimes they care, but mostly what they want is to get from A to B. And A is here, and B is I want my consumers watching telly. And so what's the best way to get from that point to that point? And whatever's in between, often they don't care. Sometimes they do.
Yeah, I guess that's the important question. Yeah, if they don't care about that, what do they care about?
But how quickly they get from A to B, and when customers get to B and start watching telly, then we get back to how quick is it when I flick the channel, and how smooth is the transition from here to there, and is it performant, and does it keep working, and is it still working after I've watched 10 hours of Wimbledon, or does this something go and fall on its ass?
Well, you've just literally, I've got a question.
I may not have an answer.
On everything you've all just said, which you're all reinforcing. So I go to a lot of, I've just started recently, for a laugh, I'm starting to but going to a lot of marketing conferences, and they are all talking about,
what would possess a man to
I sit there and think, and they're talking about all the same things we talk about in the media and space, but they are absolutely hell-bent on delivering unique content to each individual person.
Yep.
That's how they're going to sell it. And to your point about marketing, what do they care about? They care about engaging you and getting more spend out of you. And they can do that by giving you unique content. So when we start looking at things like the ecosystem of set-top boxes, they're like useless unless they can effectively stream unique content to each user. So my question-ish is, how do we live in this world where the people who basically are paying for all of this, because it's all marketing money in the end, or sales, are going to understand what you want.
Well, as a viewer, as a TV consumer.
You as a person, they know what your trigger points are, they know what's going to make you buy something, and they want to send you personalised content that will make you spend money.
You talking adverts or?
Yeah, mostly marketing, but even like embedded into content as well. So customizing shows that you watch anyway. So your version of Stranger Things is different to your version, and if you don't watch it, you know, obviously, you know, I know Josh loves selling Sunset, so that's fucking brilliant.
It's brilliant.
He says he's a big Love Island fan.
He's bought a house in LA, so but that's
just on that point, considering I came from a personalisation background, and this could be quite controversial, but in the sense of personalisation is fantastic, and I believe in it because I do it I used to do it, I don't anymore. But also you have the flip side of that, where it is, I would say 50% of the market doesn't give a crap about personalisation because they're fixated on two things or one thing. And so if you spend so much money trying to convince that individual to watch something else or do something else, you're wasting your time. Because that person will go onto that service to watch one program and that's it. Because that's what they're interested in doing. So you could spend your whole life trying to convince them to do something else. You won't. And this is the whole point about multi-service content delivery. Why do people have Netflix, Disney, Amazon Prime, and then perhaps might have a UK TV, or perhaps might have another little app that they might have for a bit of niche content? That exists because there's one particular show. Like I want to watch Clarkson's Farm on Prime, or I want to watch Star Wars when I want to watch it, or I want to watch Stranger Things on Netflix. Do you know what I mean? So
the marketing people want to embed it. Like, let's say you only watch Clarkson's Farm, it's literally the only thing you watch. They want to embed marketing in Clarkson's Farm for you, because they know you also love lawnmowers, and they want to sell you another lawnmower.
Tractoring.
I can maybe follow up with that, because we are currently building one of the biggest platforms in Eastern Europe for one of our clients that switched from a classic model of subscription to an aggregation model. So they are building a whole white label ecosystem that wants to aggregate not just content, but also digest metadata inside the application itself from different vendors, so that you can have some kind of because they are a telecom as well. Maybe you heard about it, SBB was bought by Eutelsat, so the client is United Cloud, so that's one of our biggest clients at the moment. So SBB was the telecom, providing all the broadband throughout Serbia, and United Cloud as a innovation, hub was building the platform itself. So to answer your question, aggregation of all the content inside that you can have at one place and pay at one point all of the content that you get as a consumer. So if you do a search, it doesn't matter if it's from Netflix, if it's from HBO, if it's from Disney, in your search results, you get the ingested content to you as a user, but then if you want to watch it, you need to pay through your monthly subscription an additional amount, but it's between those providers and the telco provider yourself where you have a subscription for. That's one model. The other model that we are trying to build is an open model. So that's a discovery model. So they didn't have this. So it's a complete discovery process of you as a user finding a content through web or through a search engine inside a smart TV, which also has ingested content through deep linking and all the other things that you can actually digest or ingest content from or to, and get the content discovered. So an open platform which is also ad-based, that you can watch some of the content per ad, but you can then subscribe, not having a yearly contract, but only per pay as you watch. So those are some of the new models that are out there on the market that people find out how to actually keep and create a smaller churn of users during a span of time. For example, as you told, a lot of people have Disney, Netflix, a lot of the apps that are, and you're paying subscription for all of them. So they needed to find a way on how to pay at one place and have all of this content for you. So that would be maybe an answer.
I guess my point was, I completely agree with you. Yeah. I was just going back on the technology point of view, is that, again, I think, do vendors have to think, clients have to think a bit differently about, I've got different types of segments of audience. Do I need to necessarily give that audience the complete bells and whistles as a package? Because if the reality is that they're not going to utilize utilization of those bells and whistles, then from a green standpoint, what is the point of keep feeding them all this technology and all this opportunity which they're not taking advantage of? I guess that's my point of view, and I guess that from a marketeer's point of view, that's what segmentation is about. That's what understanding your audience. Yeah. What is their wants and needs, and then delivering them technology that allows them to do what they want to do, rather than forcing everyone down the same road. I guess that's what my point was.
Then we can go home.
Well, you should say that. I was just about to hand it over to Josh and say, last question, Josh, over to you. You choose it.
I'm fascinated by your socks, Tommy, while they're great. Are they from the middle aisle? They're good, aren't they?
Okay, last one. I'll go on the VR, AR, XR kind of side of things when it comes to OTT app development, watching, personalization. You know, what's the plan with that? How are we going to work with it? How can we make the most of it? Is it going to stay? Is it going to be a nightmare, a headache? You know, what are your thoughts on VR when we're looking at applications?
It'll be a lovely thing one day. I mean, this is where we probably need a company that's a bit more invested in it, like Excedo and others, to have an opinion. From a 3SS point of view, we look at it. You know, we have an Apple thing, and we bugger about with it, and we test it, and we do stuff, and go, yeah, fuck it, and put it back in the cupboard. And probably at IBC we'll have something where we've mucked about with it a bit more, and there's something. But I mean, does anyone, hands up, does anyone have one?
3D.
Yeah, exactly, yes. There was an IBC a long time ago, Push Button, and some people remember Push Button, which was acquired by Love Film, acquired by Prime. They built a 3D TV UX. And it could have been because it was a morning after a good IBC night, but the whole thing is proper C6 stuff. And yeah, lovely idea, but no. And I think AR, VR, XR, and whatever R is a lovely idea, but so far it's still no. It will be yes at some point, and you know, smart people are investing in it. I read or saw or heard something about the Apple Vision Pro describing it as the worst virtual reality thing that Apple will ever make. And it's true, it is. Everything else will be better. So if you bought one, well done for buying the shittest thing Apple ever made. You know, bravo, buy $1,000, whatever they were. No, you're kidding. Really?
$4,000, $4,000, man. They downsized a little bit, yeah.
Jeez, wow.
Yeah, they were pretty expensive.
4K for the worst thing Apple ever made. King, bring it on.
Get them on eBay for about
Or your local landfill.
I don't need it anymore.
So yeah, no, not yet. But one day, maybe.
You'll be getting yours out of the drawer, won't you?
I'll look with my Nokia N80.
Well, we played around a little bit with it, I think. I told you on the podcast today. I mean, Ruben was here from Diagonal. We had the opportunity to...
He got bored and left. Did you see? He said, we're really dull, all of us. He said, bollocks, I'm going home.
So yeah, a couple of years ago, we tried some POC on Oculus Quest, testing the 5G network, actually between two devices located, one in New York, one here in London. Actually being an immersive experience of watching the NBA game courtside, you know, high-fiving between, you know, the avatars which are inside the VR. So, you know, talking to each other, giving some memes, things like that. But it's only fun, so nothing serious, nothing that any company would invest money on or have a return on investment, something like that. So I wouldn't really see something happening, but this was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So where we are now.
4 years ago, what timeline did you put on it getting to mass adoption?
I mean, it was, there is no mass production with it. So
no, but what would you have guessed 4 years ago? What were you thinking? By now?
Maybe by now, yeah. I would say because 4 to 5 years, let's say that all the baby, how to say, you know, all the things were like sorted out, everything was tested, blah, blah, blah. It went to the market, but nobody's doing it. So.
No.
I think I read some stat the other day that the most people watching TV are now Gen Z, and the whole industry isn't actually catering for Gen Z now. So they are not even in the VR XR space. That'll be Alpha. So Alpha's the next generation group after Gen Z.
2012 after that. 2012.
So it'll probably be Alpha that are the ones that can want to consume it. So it's probably still another 10 years away from Alpha being in that position.
10 years.
So will it come? Yes. Is it now? No. So again, I personally would think that the industry needs to do more for Gen Z in terms of how design is thought about, in terms of how TVs work. They need to work, that whole interface, that how Gen Z consumes content is not reflective of how TV platforms are built. And I think that personally has to change first before we even get to the mainstream of VR and everything else.
I sense Tommy's thinking sort of horizontal, vertical at this point. I just see him pivoting this way. He's trying not to.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not doing my job properly if I don't put the Excedo point of view.
I wasn't going to put the Excedo hat on you because you have many hats. But
I'll put it on you. And just say that, so the Excedo point of view is the area where it is interesting is things like live sports.
Yeah.
And they've actually done quite a few. So there was with Deutsche Telekom for FIFA, they did some.
that was a while back. Of a Magenta sport thing.
Yeah.
6 years, 7.
No, recently.
Oh, again?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also you've got the XR Sports Alliance, which they've set up, and they've got, there were recently a whole load of new members. Don't ask me who they all are, I can't remember, but you can look it up in the press release. If only the PR person. But interesting. I know what I don't know is if I can talk about the project that they're currently doing as part of the XR.
You can, it's fine. Michael said it's good. Let me. He says yes.
But that's an interesting one where looking at racing a certain vehicle on water.
Water polo.
No. It's another.
Is it?
But
Is that E1? E1 Sports?
I'm not denying all. It's an interesting use case where it's a growing and it's an exciting sport, and being able to feel like you're actually there is quite a cool use case. But it's also interesting with the XR Sports Alliance because they're making it easier to get to that point of deployment quicker because they're pooling resources. Are working together, so they're testing together on things.
So I think that kind of collaboration will be crucial to have any kind of mass-ish market adoption. And I like what Excedo's doing with it, and it demos brilliantly, but I stand by my previous comment that it's not mass market yet.
Well, I think, I've looked at this a lot, and always with new technology, you need device density, or no one will invest in it. And what was there, 600,000 Apple headsets in the world? Who would put investment?
Big audience for
Tommy's got 5,000 of them.
Who would put any investment apart from a PR opportunity like Disney did with FIFA? It's just wait, but it's chicken and egg,
Yeah.
It won't be sport that drives it.
I know your background. You must have looked at this.
Yeah.
Previous, yeah.
Good. Sport might drive it, but they won't be able to drive it until there's enough people with it. So what makes someone buy it?
I think because, the drone racing, I can't remember the name of the drone racing league, they can't get legislation to put people in those drones, even though they could actually physically do it. So all of the pilots currently do it through XR, right? So
Hang on, wait, put someone in a drone?
Literally.
That's through FPV. It's not XR.
First person.
Sorry, terrifying.
But they're. But no.
This sounds like a great conversation.
Yeah.
At Roxy Lanes, where we booked some karaoke and some other things that G's sorted out. So I've had a text that says shut up. That's what we're going to do. So thank you everyone.